YouTube, Les Paul Day. Just tried to do this video a minute ago and it was a full 12 minutes before I started playing it, but I've actually did a video up here, which I'll link to at the end as well, and I might even put it in the description. It was kind of an hour and 20 minutes of basically when I got this guitar to this now working. I got this off a pal Pat, who's a singer in Cranking House, moving house, and I've got this just when we were in the studio last week. I was like, I was moving house, I've just found this old shit Les Paul in the attic, do you want it? Like, so there you go, perfect. So 70s Japanese, it's made in Japan on the neck plate. You can date this by the shape of the neck plate. It's got sort of rounded edges on it, and there's something to do with whether it's got a square edge at the end of the fingerboard rather than a rounded one, as a couple of the things to find out what it is. This has no brand on it. I was looking at it and I can't decide whether it's either just a bit scratched there or it's had a brand and it's come off. I think, to be honest, it might be a no brand job. I think that's just, I don't see any remnants of a logo. But the thing, these came, you can get this guitar in infinite numbers of makes because everyone just bought them from the Japanese factory that made Les Paul copies in the 70s. And if you bought enough of them, or you paid the extra money, you could get Grant, Ibanez, CSL, Antoria, Shaftesbury, blah blah blah, whatever the shop it is, or the shop chain you're working for, get it printed on. If you're like a small independent retailer, that would cost extra money, so I would imagine if you're only buying 10, you probably wouldn't bother getting a logo put on it. I think that's what this is. Not the cheapest spec one, so these guitars are kind of always the same. The actual guitar's the same, but the hardware that goes on it can be very different. This one doesn't have, I was thinking that earlier on this was a Grant, because I had a Grant, it was basically the same guitar, but it had really, really crap tuners. These ones are actually pretty good. They don't look, they're just that, you know, I'm going to spend this evening with a bit of turps and take off that paint. They don't look anything special, but see, they've got really thin buttons which feel really good. The same as what's on my Shaftesbury resonator, which I did a video for the other day that I was raving about. I wouldn't change these. I'm not going to, but if this was mine, well, that is mine. How does that work? Yeah, they're fine. I'm happy with the tuners. They don't go out of tune and they work fine. So the difference with these is the tendency is to think that the ones that are like that are this sort of shape, rather than being your Gotor type looking ones, just pick up there, you know, that kind of thing, is that they're good, these are shit. Doesn't work that way. Nowadays you can get ones that look like this. I mean, these are Gotor ones, but you get people copying them, and you can get tuners that look exactly the same as that are absolute pish. The same as you can get ones that look like this that are absolute pish as well. But all a tuner has to do is be relatively nice to turn and not jump. You know, when you're turning it, it kind of, sometimes it takes ages before it actually turns, and sometimes it's kind of crunchy and all that. None of that. They work fine. Made of proper metal. I think it's basically the main thing with these. You can make them cheaper if you use tinfoil instead of metal, and it's like, if you actually use metal, these are metal. It works fine. The electrics, I think, are original. It's even got the wee plastic pointers. See the pointers here? You can see, so you can see that just now I'm at 0 and now I'm at 3, rather than having to guess because you've got a wee pointer. Often called finger bleeders, but the finger bleeders kind of are metal that you get. I get EBO's got them. They kind of come out. They come up like a wee metal spike there. So if you're just having a wee bang, you can just literally cut your fingers easily on them. These are just wee plastic triangles, but they're pretty cool. It's actually still got the scratch plate, which most of these don't have. I haven't actually taken it off, but oh god, it's dirty in below that. Yeah, these pickups aren't original. I reckon these pickups have been put in the late 80s, early 90s. Someone's bought this and someone's done it up, because the frets on it were really good. The truss rod was set to perfection. The neck, I think someone's been in at the pocket and set it properly. It's one of those things, it's like, you know, how it's totally worth getting one of these to work. There's a lot of guitars you can buy, Swift, not naming any names, that really, no matter what you do, it's still going to be crap. With one of these, it's just things like getting it lined up right and getting the neck angle right, and all these things. If you do that with one of these, you can actually get quite a good guitar. I mean, this is a solid 5 in grading terms, and for me, solid 5 is giggable. some of these are a bit. These are all a bit higher than that, but you know, 7 is a truly wonderful guitar. 2, I'll do a video on my grading system at some point, but solid 5, as good as any Epiphone could be. You don't get an Epiphone above a 5, I don't think. But this one plays all the way up. It's got a really low action, 1.5 mil. I actually had to raise the action up a little bit because it was just that little bit. Whereas it's now, it's got what you would class as a really low action, and there's no buzz whatsoever. Actually, see the way these are constructed. So this is a plywood body, but the top bit. So what it is, it's like if you imagine it being like a Les Paul Junior, and then it's got a couple of sections like raised blocks that sit on top of the body, and then it's got this bit of plywood bent over the top, which is, so it's kind of semi-hollow, sort of, but it does mean it's actually quite loud and really resonant, and I think that actually helps if you don't have an amp. You know what I mean? That's loud for an electric guitar that's not plugged in. Well, it's plugged in, but the amp's not on. So I'll make some noise. Even the volume control's cleaned up. I think this guitar wasn't crap when it was put in the attic. The problems with it, I think, just stem from it being not used for 10 years. And cutting the nut, because the nut wasn't cut. So bridge pickup, this is, I had humbuckers for clean, don't really do it for me. I want single coils for clean, but bridge, neck. There's something in the neck pickup. You can turn the tone down. Not as much as that. But the thing, when you're doing play, you meant to mix a mix between them. Bridge on its own, both of them. I think that must be I never do enough messing about with the volume control. So you're having it in the middle and then having an individual tone control and individual volume controls are one of the things that a Les Paul does to get clean sounds. Just knowing how much to. But I will be using it as for distortion. So rat pedal. Neck pickup. Which actually sounds really good. So I don't know what these pickups are, but they seem to be really good. I mean, that's the neck pickup sound you want, isn't it? Also, I've noticed this has got nylon saddles on the bridge, which I got a guitar magazine that I get given. I've been reading in the bog for months. A real Les Paul has plastic, has nylon saddles. Metal saddles? Ah, no, it's not a real Les Paul. Each to their own. I understand it. I can understand it's not a real Telecaster if it doesn't have the 3 saddle bridge. You know, it's like, when does it become real? I suppose it's not real because it doesn't actually say Les Paul on it. Any guitar that says Les Paul on it, like from the factory, no, because then you get Chipsons that say Les Paul on it. You got a loop pedal. I was trying to play I can't even remember how you play that Bowie song. But it plays really well, like pure stupidly well. But I was told this before. These guitars, when they were new, weren't that good because they didn't let the wood dry out and shit properly. That's, I think, maybe your difference when you start looking at your Fender and your Gibson catalogues and you start going up to $5,000. 10 grand, you know, stupid money. Why is it so much more expensive than the standard one and then the £2,000 one? I think it's a lot of it's wood and letting it dry out, because obviously it costs money to dry wood out and shit like that. And it's like, this is like, it's 50 years old, coming up at 50 years old, maybe 70s, I think, mid 70s, maybe about 75, something like that. It's a 45, 50 year old. This has been drying out and getting used to being a guitar, like just like the neck and stuff. And the neck on these is fantastic. I mean, and there's things you can't fake. Like I had a shot of a Gibson 58 reissue, was it? A 58 reissue? One that was made to look like it was from 1958, but it was new. And see, when you look at the way the tone plastic binding, it's gone that sort of yellowy ivory colour. They tried to simulate that on the 50s one. This thing was $8,000, and it looked shit. It's up here, all right. It's a sort of horrible plastic. Like, you know, when if you're buying pickup covers on eBay, you get like a choice of white or aged white. It was that, but this is a £10,000 guitar. The binding on this is white that has gone ivory, yellowy, because just through age, and even obviously around the body as well. Double bound actually. Yeah. It's genuinely really old, and I think it's got mojo, which you can't really get on a new guitar. It feels really old. To be honest, it's not really that old. Not when you look at it, when say 70, mid 70s. These are all 80s, so these are only 5 years newer or something like that. But they just look at it, it's like that. It's a modern guitar. These things are new, but they're like 84, 85. You know, it's like they're only this is only 10 years older, but it feels much older than that. I mean, it plays fantastic. I've not decided exactly what I'm going to do with it yet. I've got a feeling I might take it into the studio at Kraken House if we're in this week, and play it with Pat. No, well, Pat might want it back. Oh, it's a really good guitar. Can I have it back then? I'd have no issue using this in the studio in the band. It just doesn't have any issues. Your issues are it's got a bit of paint in the back of the headstock. Is that even really an issue? It actually does have the proper Gibson open book headstock. No, you just type lawsuit era law. It's like there wasn't really a lawsuit, but the lawsuit era isn't wrong, I suppose, because it is lawsuit era, being they've copied the headstock. This is the era of the lawsuit. The lawsuit was like 77 or 78. It was Ibanez that get hit with it because rather than making guitars, you know, bolt on neck, semi-hollow, fake humbuckers, Gibson are like, well, that's fine. But then Ibanez started making ones that were better than actual Gibsons. You're like, right, stop, cease, desist. Don't be making guitars that are actually better than our Les Pauls and selling them for cheaper, because so that's where the lawsuit came from. Gibson at the time didn't make whatever, I don't know how much a Les Paul cost, 500 quid. These probably cost about 100 quid in the 70s. It's not really the same thing, is it? You know. But once you start making them better, they start taking notice. But that's what all these ones you see in the wall were kicking about in the early 80s when they didn't have the lawsuit, but they're actually better than Fenders and Gibsons from the same era. But they cost, I think they were more than half as much, but they were significantly cheaper than Gibsons and Fenders. But they were significantly better guitars. The difference being, if you went back into a shop in the day and you, instead of buying, I don't know who said that, instead of buying that instead of a Stratocaster, because it was slightly cheaper than a Fender Strat. It was, it's got like many switching options. It plays much better. It's better built. It's got a better tremolo. It's got better pickups. Everything about it is much better. If at the time you bought a Fender instead, the Fender would be worth hundreds of money. It would still wouldn't be as good as this guitar, but it'd be worth lots of money because Fender. Oh. So I mean, I don't know. I really should. I'm back at the situation. I think it should have really. I should have a Les Paul. I don't really. They don't really do anything. Maybe I'll change my mind one day. This just doesn't suffer from a lot of the problems that you get with a real Les Paul. It's quite alive and ringy. Les Pauls tend to be a bit sort of dead and really heavy. I'm actually going to wait to see how heavy it is. It's not excessively so, which you get with quite a lot of Les Pauls. And I think one of the problems with that is it's not just necessarily the actual weight, it's the fact they don't balance really very well, so you're having to fight with them all the time, whereas this one, as you can see, that'd be my patented way for telling how neck heavy is it. You know, and this isn't like a grippy strap, this is a slidey strap. It just sits. That's where I want it. No faffing about there. So if I wait, 3.5 is about average. Oh, I don't know. Oh, it's a wee bit heavier. Stupid spinny bit of rope on the top of it. It's 3.8, so it's slightly heavier than an average guitar. I don't mean an average Les Paul, I mean an average guitar. Les Pauls can quite easily be over 5. My pal Jerry's got an Epiphone one that's it's like a concrete block. It's very nice. I mean, it's prettier than this. You know, they've got the fancy carved, the fancy tiger veneer top on and stuff. But this doesn't have that. And if you look at the I'm actually struggling to think of what to play in a Les Paul. I don't know if I really even know any more Zeppelin ones. I'm going to play. I don't way down inside. The neck back up though. Yeah, so I think I'll hold off on this. I hope we're in the studio this week. We're cranking this not in a couple of weeks' time. Quite fancy taking it in just so Pat can hear what it actually sounds like. His old guitar, because although it was set up actually not badly, the nut was way off. It was someone the previous nut must have broke. They put a new one on and they've gone, oh sorry, they got the grooves on, put it on, and the guitar sounded pish because it just needed slots cut in it, which I think actually saw me doing it in that video, just to bring it down. But I mean, plays good, plays better than a lot of Les Pauls I've played, plays better than most Epiphone Les Pauls I've played. And it's not like, as I said earlier on, it's not a reissue of a 70s guitar, it's a 70s guitar. So, rocking, 20 minutes, so you don't need to watch that other video. I'm going to put, what time is it just now? It's 5 o'clock. If that one's uploaded, I'm going to put it out now, and then I'll put this one out at usually at 7, just so I don't catch people out. So, if anyone's after a bargain, actual proper vintage, older than you are, it's older than me. Pretty sure it's older than me, which is pretty cool, having a guitar that's older than yourself and in better condition and sounds better. Rock on!